3, 2. And as promised on today's show, we've got Climate Action Brookline co-chair and town meeting member, John Harris. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Tommy.
John, some folks know about climate and some folks know about Brookline, but tell us a little bit about just what Climate Action Brookline is all about.
Okay. Climate Action Brookline is a citizen advocacy group. Our intention, our purpose is to educate and influence voters and decision-making regarding the climate crisis. And in particular, our activities are centered, as our name indicates, in the town of Brookline. So things that Brookline as a town, Brookline as residents, and Brookline residents as individuals can do to address the climate crisis. We're kind of I'd almost say a mainstream advocacy organization. We're not a civil disobedience type group. We definitely are working through conventional political structures, I guess I would say. We meet religiously on the second Monday of every month. That is our monthly public meeting. It is only bumped for major holidays. And those issues really center on, each week it's a different climate issue of concern. So CAB is we look at CAB, we love to have any and everybody who's interested in the climate crisis join CAB, get involved with CAB. It is a very good venue for you to, exercise to kind of work through your particular climate interests, to try to find allies to work with you, to publicize it. We fully recognize that all of our campaigns work when we have leaders who have energy and ideas to pursue them. And we are constantly searching for leaders with, again, as I say, any and every climate related issue. And let me just point out that we know that there are 1,000 climate concerns that people could have. We know that many people in recent years have gotten just kind of overwhelmed and depressed by how much needs to be done. But we know also there are tons of solutions and that have been proposed. And this particular book, Drawdown, which is attempting to not only stop, but reverse the climate crisis, by Paul Hawken, came out just 3 or 4 years ago, is an excellent book. It has several dozen areas of concern that people can work on. And we know that everybody, valuable time and energy, that each person has to pick and choose which of these things you're going to do, and you're going to leave it to somebody else to do the ones you just don't have the time for.
So maybe it would help by giving us a little bit of history about Climate Action Brookline. You've had a name change. You've been around, frankly, quite a long time, early in the movement. And I know the viewers would love to hear a little bit more about maybe where climate.
Yeah, Climate Action Brookline was founded in the year 2000, 21 years ago. And as a matter of fact, some of the founding people are still on our board and still involved with CAB. And a couple of highlights are basically about 10 years later, I think it was about the year 2010, Climate Action Brookline was successful in the creation of a group called the Select Board Climate Action Committee, which is a direct advisory group, a volunteer group as part of town government to advise the select board and actually others as well on climate issues. We also have had a huge success in the creation of the sustainability director position, which is in the town planning department. Let's see. Another notable thing is what we called our Solarize program, where Climate Action Brookline would get maps of houses in town that were particularly appropriate to put solar panels on the roofs of, and would go and knock on doors and try to convince the residents of those houses to put in solar panels. In 2017, Climate Action Brookline was successful in convincing Brookline Town Meeting to sign the town on to the Paris Climate Agreement. We had heard that the then candidate for president of the United States was going to pull the United States out of Paris, and we thought that was a very bad idea. And so Brookline, almost unanimous positive vote by town meeting to sign us on. And then pursuant to that, the very next year in 2018, Paris asked all the signatories to come up with a comprehensive climate action plan. And the Brookline Planning Department, in fact, did that, led by Maria Morelli of the Planning Department, in a very good for its time climate action plan. Let's see, more recently, CAB has had, Climate Action Brookline, we call ourselves CAB, by the way. We have had it's called the BGE campaign, or Brookline Green Electricity Campaign, to encourage people to switch their home electricity program to the town program, and in particular to a high percentage, hopefully 100% of renewable sources for their electricity. Another highlight was last July, where basically several residents kind of toured their houses online. It was a Zoom meeting, and showed us the weatherization, and in particular the heat pumps and other renewable electrical heating and cooling systems that they put in the house. And one of our residents who showed us around his house was the Honorable Tommy Vitolo.
True story.
There you go. True story, and very fun. So, by the way, you can see the link of that. I think it's on our Climate Action Brookline website, which is climateactionbrookline.org. I hope you can look at the video of that meeting. More recently, we had a hand in advocating for geothermal under the grounds of the Driscoll School. And currently, a couple of the major things we do every April, we have, for our monthly meeting, we have a candidates environmental forum, and that's been very, very good to have select board candidates, sometimes school committee, and sometimes other town-wide offices kind of try to convince us of their climate crisis bona fides. And then every May and every November, we have warrant article endorsement meetings, and we have one of those meetings coming up on Monday, November 8th at 5 p.m.
That's a long list. Now, it seems to me when I first got involved with the organization, it had a different name. It was Climate Change Action Brookline, but it's now CAB. And so for folks who remember it as CCAB or Climate Change Action Brookline, we are talking about the same group, are we not?
We are. Definitely are. It was just decided that CAB was Climate Action Brookline. It's a little simpler, a little easier to remember. And nowadays, by the way, it's very helpful that we are CAB and that the in-town government related group is called the Select Board Climate Action Committee, or SBCAC. And that way we keep those two groups separated in people's minds.
Got it. And they are a select board appointed town government group, and you are an advocacy group who sure has a lot of folks who may be town meeting members or otherwise involved in government, but you are wholly separate. Is that right?
We are wholly separate, and we are what I like to call is open admission. Any Brookline resident who has an interest in and concern in the climate crisis, we would love to have you get involved with Climate Action Brookline.
So you ran down a list of things you've been involved in. I'd like to drill in on a couple of them if I can. One that has been going on for many years, I think you were not able to do it this past year due to COVID. It started off as, I think, Climate Week, then it became Climate 2 Weeks, and it's grown since then. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and finally, it reached the point last several years where it was called Climate Spring. It was that way basically, I think, until COVID hit, and we will have to see. I mean, remember, we're coming into winter now, and let's see what happens in the coming spring. And what it was a whole series of events that were centered on each night a different aspect of the climate crisis. So we would have speakers, we'd have movies, we'd have discussion groups, et cetera, et cetera. So we may or may not this spring organize things under that rubric. It's actually, Tommy, thank you very much for reminding me. It's a very good idea.
Well, of course, with the uncertainties around COVID, it's understandable that We just don't know. Certainly some of the events were outdoors, but spring weather's, well, uncertain. We went from really nice days in October to a nor'easter, seemingly overnight. Tell us a little bit about the Brookline Green Electricity Program, a little bit more about the program and, what CAB's interest is there and why it remains energized about the program.
Okay, basically, conventionally, since probably the beginning of the electrical grid, the relationship of individuals to the electric company in their area, and of course it was a government-controlled monopoly. It makes no sense to have more than one set of electrical wires going to any given street. So, so a single company would be authorized by the State Department of Public Utilities, and then that body would be regulated by the state government, that organization, that private corporation. What BGE does is so what would happen is that each customer, in a sense, would be negotiating with the utility companies as an individual. What BGE does is two things. First of all, it allows the group of customers, the vast majority of electrical customers in Brookline, to be represented, in this case, by the town, who can advocate for advantageous prices, number one. And number two, a particular reason why environmentalists wanted to start the program, which we call Brookline Green Electricity, is that we are lobbying, again, on the part of several thousand individuals at the town basis, to keep on increasing the percentage of renewable sources for that electricity. So what has happened, we are in year 2, I believe, or so, of a 3-year contract, and there are multiple tiers of renewable that you can purchase. And the default tier right now is about 30% renewable. Okay. About a year from now, our new contract begins. And well, first of all, CAB has been involved in 2 parts. We were involved in the last negotiation. And now more recently, you may have seen the lawn signs up in town to encouraging people to sign on with BGE. And we've been, even putting door hangers on doors and speaking with our friends and things to increase the signups. And our interest at this point, our main interest, is in getting involved in the negotiations for the next year's contract. As I mentioned, the default of renewable was 30% in the current contract. We lobbied for much higher than that, but we're told that electrical suppliers would not agree to that on the grounds they felt the higher tiers would be too expensive, and they just could not get enough customers to make the business case for that. Here we are several years later, and we've got towns in the greater Boston area. There's, I think, is Newton at 80%, and I think Lexington has at 100% for its renewable default. And so we think, and also there's, many more, forest fires and floods, et cetera, environmental disasters around the United States. There's the tenor of public opinion and actually the awareness of utility companies and electrical suppliers has changed. So we hope that with some strong advocacy on our part, we can bump up the default in the next contract, and that is going to be where our efforts focus on this year. And in Climate Action Brookline, it is Susan Martin, co-chair, newly elected co-chair Susan Martin, who will be leading that effort on behalf of Climate Action Brookline.
And of course, in addition to a higher default, the other way in which CAB can help move the town in a renewable direction is to encourage individuals to opt up from the default to the higher threshold, which I know, John, you've done, I've done, do, and it's nice knowing that your home is fully powered by renewables.
And Tommy, if we make the default 100%, then it's not really an opt-up effort on the part of climate activists in town. It's kind of, that's the default. That's kind of, yeah. And by the way, another advantage of the BGE program altogether is that the town is continually vetting programs for quality control. I am still getting mailings from private companies that are also say they're offering green electricity this, green electricity that. Some of those companies may be fantastic, but we know that some of them are just really scams, I'd almost say. And it's very hard for any particular individual to know which is which. If you sign up with BGE, you know you have the town kind of advocating for you and double checking for quality control from our electrical suppliers.
That's right. And yeah, I think it's been a great program for the town. Really, the town was out ahead of the rest of the state on this and helped move the status quo, right? Move the cutting edge. And I think the town should be proud of that. What are you working on now? What is currently some of the things CAB is thinking about or planning on? What's CAB interested in these days?
Okay, very good question. Thank you. CAB, right now we're in the middle of kind of formulating our priorities for the coming year or so. And the reason we're doing that is a whole bunch of new things in the climate space, as they say. First is a recognition that the issues are getting more complicated. It's no longer at the tree hugger stage. It is now at the stage of, just to give one example, if you look at a particular plot of ground, what's the best use of that plot? Do you want to build a bike path there, or do you want to plant trees there? Or do you want to build a building there? You have to weigh your priorities. You have to weigh very often a number of very positive priorities to see which one is the optimum. Basically, a very important part of that as well is that everybody's getting better and better at kind of measuring priorities, measuring amounts of greenhouse gases by various activities, for example. And those are helping us a great deal. The Alan Leviton, who's a now retired engineer with Climate Action Brookline, is helping us. He's our kind of our data expert, and he was involved in greenhouse gas inventories that the town has done, the last one in the year 2008. And he realized his numbers is that in the town of Brookline, that buildings as of 2008 accounted for about 43% of the carbon footprint in Brookline, that transportation, which means gas and diesel fuel, is about 28%, and then electricity generation and supply is about 25%. So those kinds of numbers are going to help us set our priorities.
Well, it sounds like you've been busy. What about folks who want to put some of their time into these efforts? What would you say to folks who have got a little time in? Maybe they're energy experts, maybe they're not. Maybe they're extroverts, maybe they're introverts, right? What would you say to folks who are interested in getting involved in these efforts?
We would love to have any and everybody get involved with Climate Action Brookline. And the easiest way to do that is, first of all, one of your neighbors may be one of our board members. If not, basically just go to climateactionbrookline.org and go down to the lower page there and click on the link, and that will put you in touch with us, and then we will get in touch with you. And the best way to get started, I think, is to begin to attend our second Monday monthly meetings. We will see that you're there. We will note that you're there. And then you can try to get in touch with us for any further involvement, or we will get in touch with you. So,
is Climate Action Brookline currently working on any warrant articles or other town policy, or are you really just sort of in between things at the moment?
Very good question. I did mention before that our November 8th monthly meeting is going to be a warrant article endorsement meeting. There are about half a dozen, I think, articles on the warrant that have environmental implications. And I've talked with two of the petitioners at this point. I've talked with three, actually, people involved, and who have an interest in looking for CAB's endorsement on that. So ideally, what we do at that meeting is that the petitioners themselves present their warrant article, and then there's a period of questions. And then we vote up or down on that warrant article. A major focus of ours right now in terms of official town business is the coming ARPA funding decision. And we actually just, our CAB, there's a core of our board members who meet as often as weekly for planning sessions. And yesterday's meeting, we discussed a great deal about what we would do for ARPA. So the idea that is farthest along is that there's a kind of a sub branch of Climate Action Brookline called Climate is Everybody's Business that was founded by people like David Gladstone of the Chamber of Commerce and Susan Martin of Climate Action Brookline. And that group is working on a proposal to have ARPA funds fund an energy coach position that would advise initially businesses on how they can behave more responsibly in terms of climate issues. So other issues as well that we're kind of developing as time goes on. Because of ARPA, the imminent deadlines, that is going to be our focus at first. There are a few of us who are making noises about getting involved with trying to get heat pumps installed in, affordable housing or in really public housing projects in Brookline. We'll see if we can get that together.
Lots going on in town, lots going on with the climate. Really Climate Action Brookline has been doing well for so long. I know you've worked with some other groups around town and out the state. Maybe just quickly give us a sense of some of the other groups that CAB partners with.
Well, Tommy, excellent question. Basically, there are other groups like Mothers Out Front has a very active branch in Brookline, Elders Climate Action as well. There's a group of environmentalists, environmental club at the Brookline High School. There's a group called Safe Routes to Schools that have climate implications, getting the kids out of fossil fuel school buses to get to and from school. What we're actually talking about, amongst other ideas, is the possibility in early next year of a community summit of Brookline-based environmental groups. There are all these groups having their own focus, number one, and number two, there are people who kind of come out of the woodwork constantly with this climate-related idea, and it's fantastic. We're really getting at the point where we kind of should learn what each other is doing, how we're doing it, where each group can learn, can we help, or is it best if we stay out of the way because we're doing other things, that kind of thing. So again, at some point next year, hopefully in the first half of next year, the possibility of a community summit of Brookline environmental groups.
Climate Action Brookline, been busy for 20 years. And of course, there's so much more work to do. John Harris, co-chair, thank you for coming on Brookline Interactive Group on the TV on TV show. We're delighted to have you. And as you mentioned earlier, we want to make sure folks know they can go to brooklineclimateaction.org to check out the website and get involved. John, thanks for coming on the show.
Tommy, just to correct very quickly, it's climateactionbrookline.org.
Oh, I apologize.
Climate Action Brookline. That's the only way it'll work to get to the website. Google will always work. Yes. So Tommy, many thanks. Good to talk with you.
John, thanks for coming on the show. We'll see you soon.